I'm going to ask us to do a little bit of imagining. I know, just something little thing to get our creative juices flowing. So I'm going to describe two people. Ready? The first person, his name is Simon. Simon is wearing a blue shirt, has brown eyes, brown hair, average build, decently young, weak guy. He approaches you. Hi there, I'm Simon. It's nice to meet you. You have a pretty nice conversation with Simon, and then he leaves. Moments later, you hear footsteps. In a second, man approaches. He has a similar build to Simon, almost identical facial structure even, except something's just a little different. Hi there, I'm Larry. It's nice to meet you. He says, you have some reason that create like small talk but it's stuck with Larry before you quickly excuse himself. Later, you return home, and you realize that you're actually the head of a big sales company. And you also realize that you're hiring tomorrow. So you flip through the resumes and see that Simon and Larry both applied for the position. Well, that's pretty great. You've already met both of them. But now, let me ask you something. How many of us in that short lean time felt slightly more confident than Simon? Maybe we can assume that Simon was more capable, more outgoing, maybe even more qualified. Larry kind of seems, at best, a little shy, and at worst, a major weirdo. But what if I told you that the two had nearly identical stats? The same age, same build, even were wearing the exact same thing. The only difference between the two of them was in how they presented themselves. And the real tragedy is that Larry could have been smart, could have been more green, could have been even funnier if he got to do it. But because Larry came off as a bit odd at short amount of time, now the odds are against him. And whatever bright future Larry could have had at the company, we never really get to know. What we do know is that we did form some primary perceptions, or some first impressions of Simon and Larry. But do we know why? And actually, why does that even matter? Well, let's think about that for 1 second. Doesn't almost every aspect of our everyday lives revolve around one thing? Our relationships with people? And at a certain point, there must have been a beginning to these relationships. According to former mathematics professor, data analyst James Hyman, the average person was 6 to 12 new interactions each day, adding up to hundreds each month, nearly 4,000 interactions a year. Sure, well, many of these relationships are probably fleeting. Surely it only takes a single strong first impression to land forging internship or be a lifelong friend. And so I truly wish for all of us to succeed in our upcoming ventures and impressing some potential future acquaintances. So in order to make some killer first impressions of our own, we'll be going over 3 things today. First, psychology behind why we think these things in regards to first impressions, how this influences our academic meetings, and how we can use this knowledge to our advantage for making first impressions. First thing, your looks. Unfortunately, despite what Disney movies try to teach us, the reality is that pure looks do matter. Alvin Krabian, professor emeritus at UCLA, finds out how you look, here at 55% of weight, and how you're esteemed. A cognitive bias in humans, also known as the halo effect, can also lead to more favorable opinions and more conventionally attractive people. So the consciously associated more positive traits, such as intelligence, trustworthiness, and more subjectively beautiful individuals. All right, well today we're going to learn about things we can control, and you usually can't change your main facial features. Once again, not saying you have to. The Disney movies were right about one thing. How you look isn't everything. How you dress totally matters as well. Your clothing style has huge importance in how you're conceived. For example, let's say you have a job interview with a big, long hat. Wearing a clean, ironed suit will give off a totally different impression than, let's say, khaki jeans or a neck. Outside of interview situations, Jessica Sierra, fashion trade, Austin also knows how clothing can be an indicator of social status, personal taste, economic standing, and more. We as humans also naturally gravitate to clothes that look, dress, and engage us. So if there's anything to take away, one, dress appropriately for the situation, whether professional, casual, and two, remember who it is your job will get to. Second, okay, so maybe that look stuff was sort of obvious. Maybe that just required a bit of common sense. Well, step two is body language. The next thing people will notice after a face fit is the rest of the body. Let's bring back that job interview situation from earlier. If your interviewers walk into the radio, see you in your fancy three-piece suit bar, and then see you slouch you over like this, they're going to focus on this, and none of them exactly feel the fucking professionals. So that brings us to our first point, posture. Your posture says a lot about how confident you are with yourself and the area you're in. A conducted study showed that injuries to interviewees gave favorable impressions of her worse for those that did have upright postures, shoulders back, as opposed to the slouching interviewees. You might be like, that's obvious, Garrett. Obviously, you wouldn't be slouching your jaw in. That's just obvious. The truth is, everyone slouches. Me, you, your 7th-hour history here, and it's usually just like. So I'm reading this up because I wanted us to take a bit more care, mindfulness presentation, rather than just something out. All right, next big thing, eye contact. No staring contact's necessary, but eye contact is another great way to convey your humility. The general rule of maintaining eye contact is around 60 to 70% of the time. This was proven to be the most effective in maintaining conversations. You might be like, well, how the heck am I supposed to measure eye contact at percentages? Well, part of it is actually not thinking up. Should be pretty natural. Though generally, do start to get a little freaked out if you stare into their eyes for longer than 6 seconds. So if you need some sort of confinement, it's a good place to start. Third thing. Okay, so after the person you're trying to impress does a once-over review, they take in your fire outfit, confident gaze, how about just waiting for one last thing? How you act. Your initial action for perhaps one of the most important things that treats their overall mental profile, and to stick around in their hands for longer than you might expect. This is due to the primacy effect, which is another cognitive bias in humans where information that is presented first is both remembered longer and with more heavily their information. This means your person interactions with someone think a lot longer and take into account a lot more importantly than you might think. That's why a lot of speeches have really interesting intros to engage their audience, while the rest of their speeches feel like boy, technical. Anyways, if our first move is what's going to get us most heavily, we should send them follow signs. First thing, smile. Smiling not only bolsters perceived attractiveness, but can serve as a visual cue, signaling friendliness, approachability, and goalfulness. Second thing, gestures. Gestures can help bring interest towards how you gesture as well also matters. For example, open palms can psychologically signal honesty and openness for all prospects with seeing offensive. But we don't need to go overboard with it. A good rule of thumb might be not to photo someone. And finally, how do you speak? Your speaking level says much about your confidence and emotion. Keeping a calm, steady, and tone with an easily altered tempo, so open. All right, let's recap. Ingredients to a great first impression. Similar than expected, right? You need appropriate visual communication, confident body language, care for the initial actions around comics. So let's bring back our good rights, Simon and Larry. 2 guys, same age, same qualifications, even were wearing the exact same shirts. Simon, who is obviously paying attention to his TED Talk, walks in confidently, offers a handshake, a warm smile, and good eye contact. Larry followed. He was a bit quieter, a bit more sure, less intelligent overall, and excitement who got a job. But let me let you in on a little secret. All that stuff I said about Larry in the start was actually true. He really is a likable and qualified guy, even in his first impression didn't suggest me. And so, if we were to give Larry a bit of a makeover, maybe dress him up a bit. Imagine him standing up straight and giving you a smile as a wife. Now, he's completing the checklist. And Larry will reapply that job position now. I think he has a better chance. In the end, Larry doesn't need to make any drastic personal changes. He just needed a way to let that inner trigger show strong for his profession. But sometimes it's not about becoming someone new, but about presenting the best version of what's inside of us all along. Thank you.